I've been slacking. It's time for the first mow, and this mower is not clean. So I waited for this first mow video as long as I possibly could for a day that wasn't raining, overcast, 40-mile-per-hour wind, you name it, it's been going on this spring. And today I finally found partly cloudy. It's about as good as I can do. See how long the sun is going to last out here. I'm hoping that I can get a few hours of mowing in with some good sunlight just to make everything look nice for all of you guys. It's May 4th today, by far the longest that I've ever waited to complete an entire mow. This backyard right here has still not had a complete mow on it yet, and it's May 4th. Today though, it needs it, so I just decided the weather is about as good as it's gonna get, and let's go for it. As usual, a quick check of the reel to make sure it's cutting well. Looks like that side needs a little bit. Okay. So a couple things here, I'll explain what I'm doing real quick. So first of all, I usually leave the basket off of the front, the grass catcher on the first couple passes, just to make sure I can get in close to the corners and so that I can see the reel really well and make sure I don't hit the cement. You definitely do not want to hit those corners with the reel, or that will not be a good situation. And from there, I usually start my pattern. Today I'm probably going to try a double wide diamond, so that will be double the width of the mower and then in two different directions. At least that's what I'm hoping for. We're gonna see if it's gonna work. So I'm a few passes in here, and I noticed already that this has grown extremely fast in the last few days. So I'm probably gonna have to raise the height of cut up. I don't wanna scalp things off and get too low. I'd rather take this down gradually in the next few days, although it is supposed to rain again, so that's gonna be difficult too. But the reels aren't necessarily the same as rotary as well, where you can just go in and buzz something off, although that's not good with a rotary either. I have noticed with the reels that it can do it, but you don't get as clean of a cut. So you want to make sure that you're not going too crazy, taking off too much grass. And so I would rather raise the height of cut today and make sure I get a good clean cut. The nice thing about that on this mower is that it's very simple. So we'll take this off. You can also see I only took a few passes, and I've got a lot of grass in here already, which is a sign that I'm cutting off too much. So you got this little pouch up here with your tools in it. Right here on this side you have one screw holding that real tight in there. So you loosen that. On this side you've got this cover that covers all your belts, and it also has a gauge on here to tell you somewhat where you're at. So I was cutting right around 0.6. So just slightly over half of an inch, and normally I would be there in the spring if I could, but we've had a lot of rain recently and this has gotten out of control very quickly. So I'm gonna go, I think, around 3/4 right now and see how that does for me. Thing is you can always readjust. It's very easy to do. It only takes a minute or two, and so now you go back to that side and just tighten that screw. So you can see here, you're just not gonna get a better stripe than that reel mower because you got dual rollers on there, no wheels, really great stripe. Okay, so that's one pass through here. You can see nice stripes, double stripes as I said. So now what I'm going to do is go the opposite direction and cut those this way, so double wide, then you should see a sort of diamond in the lawn. And also, you can see the sun went away. My apologies today because I was hoping this was going to be the day that I'd get even the slightest sliver of sun for a few hours straight. It's just the reality though right now. I'm sure you guys are dealing with the same thing. So there you have the diamonds. Man, this thing would be absolutely blazing if the sun was out. They don't show up quite as well on this cloudy day just because you don't have the sunlight. So that stripe is created by pushing that grass blade over in opposite directions. Think about velvet or some sort of material that you rub your hands on and you'll see a lighter and darker stripe if you push it one way compared to the other. It's the same thing here, except you need the sunlight to see those stripes the absolute best possible. But still looks good today. Just, I wish that the sun was out so we could get that really bright stripe. So I have a sneaking suspicion here that this grass is actually taller than I even think it is. So let's use our Prism gauge. Oh yeah, I'm sitting at about 1.25 inches, somewhere around there. So I think I'm going to set the height of cut even higher than 3/4 of an inch on this section. So you can see now that's cut at just under 1 inch. I prefer a slightly tighter look, so a little lower than that, but just wanted to show you as well. If you've been trying to figure out where you want to cut, some of you don't want to cut quite as low, maybe 1 inch or 1.25 inches and something like that. It definitely can do it at that height as well. All right, let's take a look with the Prism, see what it looks like. Pretty much dead on of where I have it set on the mower. So I have it set at 0.9. So I did a rotary cut on this a couple days ago, and I noticed after that of course, as usual with rotary, you'll notice some of the tips don't cut quite as clean, and this Prism will also give you a look at that, see what your grass blades are looking like. If you'll remember from last year, this section right here out front is my 100% ryegrass renovation that I did. This is the Knorr Elite ryegrass that we have. I leveled this really well and then I grew it in on top of sand. Looks really, really good so far, except for just this front section right here. Right on the driveway, sometimes during the winter time you get some damage here and there, but those are easily fixable with just some overseed things or just spot seeding in some of those spots. Well, look at that ryegrass. There's just nothing else like it. So now I'm moving to the front yard. I'm gonna try the double wide diamonds over here as well to try to match that side yard, at least somewhat close. It does take some time to do a pattern like that, but I think it'll be worth it. And plus, I'm out here mowing, so why am I gonna complain? This is exactly what I've been waiting for, is some of the sunlight to come out. Look at these stripes.
Feeling good, it's a beautiful day. Feeling good, it's a beautiful day. The sunshine is here to stay. The sunshine is here to stay. It's a beautiful, beautiful day.
Well, every season I get to this point in this first mow video and I just take a look here, and I'm still blown away every time that something like this can happen in a residential yard. It was something that I never thought was possible in the past, but these new mowers, these elite cultivars of grass that you can put in and really give you the exact same results as any professional sports field, golf course, anything that you can think of that has that high-end turf. I look out across here every time and I'm still blown away at how amazing it looks. So unfortunately, I completely forgot that Cujo had sent me these shoes for my first mow video. It was super nice of them as well to create this black and orange shoe just specifically to match my mower. That was really nice of them. But they are doing a flash sale for my viewers only right now. That's 15% off. You can't get that deal anywhere else. So if you've been looking at these shoes or boots, today you get 15% off, so make sure to use the code and save on a pair of shoes. So that edge is looking much better now. Sometimes at first mow of the season and the first time you put the edge on the grass, there's some excess that has grown over, some soil, and that's kind of what I'm dealing with here. And that just happens, but I got out a manual edger and put that along there as well to scrape off some of the soil, but it looks much, much better now. Another thing here that's going on is we had some winter damage in this section. You can see that big truck behind me. My 2500 was sitting in the driveway right up against the grass because our driveway is not large enough to put it in the middle and still allow my wife's vehicle to come out of the garage, so it had to be tucked pretty close up to the grass, and that meant, although I knew it wasn't a good idea, that meant we were walking on this area, getting in and out of the vehicle sometimes on the frozen ground. It wasn't always snow covered, and sometimes you'll just get some die-off from that, and that's what happened. So this area, there's a few thin bare spots right along through here where we were walking, where the truck was parked, but that can be fixed. Just ryegrass. I can spot seed these areas, and that'll be something that I'm going to be working on here pretty soon. So if you're interested in checking out that Swardman and more about it, Landsea is running a sale right now. So this is going to be a sale on the Edwin 55 and a sale on the Edwin 45. So I'll show you the details here. You have $200 off on both of those. Free cartridge, it comes with it, and transport wheels included, and a grass box included as well. So right now, if you were interested in that Swardman, it'd be a good time to grab that thing with that sale going on. Let's get looking at the backyard right now and see what's going on with that. A few weeks ago, I did a test where I mowed just this side of the grass. Then in the middle, I did one removal of some of that dead material from winter to see if that would make a difference. Over on the other side, I did not do any mowing at all. So today I can show you that looking across here, aside from the dog spots that are growing up really well, I do not see a difference in terms of green up, or did this side green up faster because I mowed it back here? Not really. This has been pretty much identical in terms of the way that it looks back here. Walking along now, you'll see this was the area that I have not mowed whatsoever. It definitely is taller than the rest of it, but for the most part, looks the same. Usually I'm at 3 inches back here on this fescue, and so I don't really tend to go much lower than that. 2 3/4 maybe for this first mow. If that's what it looks like it needs, I'll go to that. So I'm really loving the color of these Elite fescues. In person, this has a slight blue-green look to it. It's a very deep, dark green color. Really loving the color of this. It stripes extremely well. You'll see today that I put that striping kit onto the Time Master, and it does a pretty good job on its own without that on there, but a slightly more defined stripe to it. So outside of the fence, you'll see the color is not quite as good. This is the Kentucky Bluegrass, my original bluegrass that I had back here. So for those of you who've been following along for a while on the channel, you'll know that This was the original grass type that I had in all of the backyard. Then it got switched over to this fescue in the back, and I left the Kentucky bluegrass back there. I like to be able to compare these two, but also the area behind the fence is an area that I don't do as much maintenance on, and it's definitely starting to show this year. This is probably the third season or so that I've been going to a more minimal program back there, only fertilizing a couple times a year, not doing much else except mowing, no extra irrigation on it. And so it's definitely starting to show. I'm seeing pretty widespread weeds coming into this section. I'm seeing some of these rough clumping fescues, which would be a tall fescue grass, but is considered a weed pretty much in a bluegrass lawn. That grass would have to be removed with something like glyphosate. I've done this project before, but it's not something that you love to do just because you have these dead spots all around your yard after you do that. I have a few other rough grasses back here, clover going on, lots of different things back behind that fence line. So that shows you just the differences there between my programs. In the backyard here, I definitely do have a few things going on as well. I do have a few spots of Poa triv. So Poa triv is another one that's a pain. I've had to spray out a few of these spots last season and then reseed those spots, but they will definitely be a more lime green color. It will stick out like a sore thumb. The other thing going on is that where the dogs come off of the deck, especially in the winter time, they don't go very far out into the yard just because of the snowfall. So this area is a really good example of what happens when a yard gets way too much fertilizer in the spring. So the dogs have been fertilizing this area right in this section. One, some of it has died off because of too much fertilizer, so you'll see those bare spots. But the other areas that were diluted from the snow, they got some of that fertilizer, but didn't actually burn because it diluted some of that with the snowfall. They are growing so far out of control now that they're actually starting to lose some color. They look more lime green because this is growing, I would say, at least an inch a day. I've been coming out every day in this section alone and just mowing it almost every single day because it's just growing like crazy. So that's what you don't want to do in the spring, is give your yard too much fertilizer with this cool season. With all this rain that we've been having, with the cooler temperatures, if you really bombed some fertilizer on there, you're not going to be able to keep up with mowing it, and you're also going to actually start to lose some color and things because it's not sending that energy into the roots, it's sending it into that top growth. And you don't want accelerated top growth right now. You want to be able to keep it under control and not have to mow it as often as I'm having to mow this section right here. So I was thinking today when I was mowing too, it hasn't really hit me yet that this is most likely the first mow of the season here at this property. Of course, we'll be moving to something new and exciting, but there's always a bittersweet feeling as well after all the work that I've put into this place over the years. It's where the channel started. So many videos have happened here. So I was thinking about that today, but I'm very excited to move on to some new projects as well.